our Agile Nepal YouTube and Facebook pages. So let's get started. Let me invite, on behalf of Agile Nepal community, let me invite our moderator for today, Prakash Ariel. So he will take forward from here onwards. Over to you, Prakash Dai.
Thank you, Amit. And thank you so much for organizing this event. I'm sure it will be a great event. And let me welcome Abhigya Pokhrel from Ansel. And we have Sudeep Manshrestha from Leapfrog.
Hey guys, good evening.
We have Soham Dhakal from Cloud Factory.
Hello.
And we have Mukesh Singh from CodeBT.
Hello, everyone.
Okay. So before we jump to the questions, so some of the ground rules we will try to adhere to. So I will try to question each question to two panelists. So I will ask the name, call out the name, but again, feel free to jump in if third or fourth person feels that, okay, I need to answer the question if it's a must-have. And try to answer in a most simple and straightforward way so that maybe it can be answered in 2 or 3 liners, not more than that. That is the expectation, but it's not a mandatory thing. And one thing I will really say is please feel free to pass on if you think that the question doesn't suit your role or it's not really don't want to answer. Maybe you want to hear somebody else's opinion on that. Please feel free to pass on. And lastly, do not provide any info which you are not allowed to because of your organizational contracts. So please keep in mind that we don't want to get you into trouble. So do not provide any info which will be in contradict to your organization's rules. With this, let's start the introduction. And I will request Soham Dhakal, please introduce yourself, share what your organization does and your personal experience, your personal roles, responsibilities.
Sure. Thank you, Prakash. So my name is Soham Dhakal, and I am the Director of Engineering at Cloud Factory. I think most of you have probably heard of Cloud Factory. I see some of my colleagues here also, which makes me a little nervous because now I cannot make stuff up, right? Again, I'm the Director of Engineering. Cloud Factory provides digital work where opportunities doesn't exist and talent does. That's our main work. But other than that, we have a good engineering team that builds products that helps our core business. So I think anything else, I'll probably answer during the questions. That's all for me.
Sure. Thank you, Soham. And next, same question. There are two questions which I will be asking all of the panelists, and this is one of them. So Abhigya ji, your introduction, your organization introduction, what your organization does, and your roles, responsibilities.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Abhigya Pokhrel. I work at Incel, telco for Nepal. I think everybody has heard Incel. So currently, I am a senior project manager over there. For the past 4 years, I've been serving in this role. However, I am an electronics engineer by academics, did my master's in mobile communications, and I started my career with Vodafone. Prior to working as a project manager, I was doing some kind of work, some technical stuffs in the service operations department. So I served there for 6 years. And currently, I have project teams. I'm handling around 5 projects for now. In addition, I also lead the Agile transformation program for my organization. So, and I think rest will be discussed later as well. So that's all for the introduction from my end.
Thank you, Abhigya. Next, I will request Mukesh Singh to answer the same question, what your organization does and your roles, responsibilities.
Sure. Thank you, Prakash. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mukesh Singh. I'm currently associated with Cotiviti, which was formerly known as Bursin Technologies. I hope most of you have heard, and I can see many people are from our organization, as Soham said. Yeah, so I'm as a role, my role is engineering manager. I'm looking into different projects, and especially in the engineering stream, where uh, my role is more aligned to the management, people management, and product management, and uh, and agile transformations as well. So, and as an organization, we work in health domain, specific to US healthcare. So, I think that's pretty much about the organization. So, and I'll be looking forward for the questions if I can answer your questions, any queries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukesh. Sudhuji, over to you. Same question about your organization and personal experience, roles and responsibilities.
Okay, thank you, Prakasi. Good evening to everybody here, and I appreciate everyone's time for joining this session. So talking about myself, I've been engaged with Leapfrog for almost 6 years now, and before Leapfrog, I was actually pursuing my master's in UK. I also was engaged in few software companies in UK. So basically, I started off after completing my master's in computer engineering. I started off as a developer, and over the past 6 years in Leapfrog, I've been engaged in senior project management role. So talking about Leapfrog, it's a company that's based out of US. We have our offices based out in Seattle and mainly in Seattle. And we provide like offshore. So we basically, rather than calling a software development company, we prefer to call ourselves a solutions company, because we help startups that are based out of US to build products to bring their dreams into reality actually. And yeah, so most of our projects are basically related to mainly US healthcare domain sector. We also have couple of projects related to fintech and tech domain as well. But our primary business is in US. Beside US, we also have businesses in a few in other sectors, in other parts of the world as well. So yeah, so I think that's my introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhuji. And with this, I think we have a very good mix of experience, mix of responsibilities, different type of responsibilities, different types of organizations in this panel. So this should be quite interesting. And I think for the participants also, asking the questions would not be an issue. I think this panel would be the good panel to answer the questions from with a very big breadth. Okay, going to the next question. What I want to ask is about your getting insight into your typical day. So what do you do in a typical day? So maybe starting with Mukesh Singh. Mukesh.
Yeah, sure. So basically, the typical days are similar for everyone, as we are staying at home. So yeah, and since we are working for others, for our customers, we should not stop, and we are very much dedicated. Like, yeah, definitely we were working in the office as well, but the responsibility has added. Like, we have to work like a remote team, so it's a kind of new experience for of us, and we have to be very much cautious. So normally the day started with uh, unless like the day that we started for the office, but it's like we are waking up, we are getting ready, and we have to start the office. So we have to play the both of the role, the personal and professional, both are mixed at this moment. So we first get up with lots of emails. We check emails. We sync up with the teams, and since we are working remotely, it's a kind of new experience for all of us. And for the organization like us, we never allowed anybody to work from home uh, before this situation. So it's a kind of new experience for the organization as well. And like we have as I said, it's very tough for us to coordinate with the people, since this is the very first time we are experiencing. And then we have to connect with the people. So we have named it as a sync up, so that we can get in sync with the team members if any kind of problem they are facing. Like uh, it could be anything. It could be like electricity, internet, or anything else, right? So we are sync up with the team members to get in touch and to know what are the problems they are facing, or what kind of problem they might be facing throughout the day. So since we are um, committed for our partners, for our clients, to deliver them what they're expecting. So normally we are starting with the sync ups, and then we are getting start with the day. So in between as well, we are connecting with the team members. We have uh, other rituals, stand-ups. We have meetings with the people. We are very much, in touch, so that we can get in touch like we were in the office. We are always connected. So we are trying to get that sense as well for this situation. So this is how the situation has transformed us, and we are doing a kind bit of similar.
Okay. Thank you, Mukeshji. Um, maybe my first request to have the question answered in 2-3 lines may not be right for this question. So based on your response, I will request other panelists to ignore that rule for now. So again, Abhigaji, we want to know what your typical day is. Can you please provide us the insight into it?
Yes. Like Mukesh just mentioned, things are a bit different from the way it used to be in the past. So we all are working from home. So if you talk about a typical day, well, not considering for now, then as usually my work starts from 9 to 5:30. So I try to get things done before that, so that I'm in office on time at 9 o'clock. Plus I've got a little one, so I have to drop her to school as well. So I need to get her ready and drop her to school, then go to work. But what I do is, like I mentioned earlier, I've been handling a diversified range of projects. So it's from segmentation to big data analytics, data privacy to agile transformation. So these are the diversified projects that I'm handling. So these projects require a lot of focus. And what I need to make sure beforehand, like before I start the day, is what is my focus going to be for the next day? Let's say, like, I plan my day for tomorrow, and I say that agile transformation is the core focus for me for tomorrow. So what are the things that I'm going to do on these projects? So whom am I going to meet? What are my deadlines? What are there in my to-do list? So I just go through them once. So maybe I'll be focusing maybe 40 to 50% of work to a major project. Then maybe something else, like maybe something on segmentation that I have to plan ahead. So I make a list of to-do lists for the next day, so that it's easy for me and I don't need to, really check on what to do. So that's how it is for me. Like, and this changes every day. So tomorrow I'm doing transformation. I'm focusing on transformation and segmentation. Means maybe on Tuesday, my focus would be more on privacy or some other projects that I'm handling. So that's how I make a routine first of all, and I try to cover as much as possible work within the defined time frame. However, sometimes it's not possible, and I'm a mother of 4-year-old girl as well. So I have to take care of her as well, give her some time as well. So that's planning is very important to me, and then I execute. So that's how my day is.
Awesome. Thank you, Abhigaji. And going over to maybe Sohamji. Insight into your typical day. Hello, Sohamji.
I think we need to unmute him, Amit.
Yeah, he's on mute.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I had muted myself because there was some disturbance.
Okay.
Thank you for that question. A typical day is not typical anymore because we're all in this situation. So I think for me and also that team, when you have a high performing team, I think what I miss most is the collaboration, the opportunities for collaborating in person. So even in this situation, we're trying to be agile, not just as a process to develop software, but to actually handle ourselves. So I think collaboration is a big thing for us. So every morning at 8:30, we have a quick stand up with all the managers. And then at 9:10, check in with the whole team. That kind of sets the tone for the day. And then we have various meetings all through the day. And then at 3 o'clock, we have a tea time with the whole team where people can join. It's optional to just that at 3, we don't talk about work. So we talk about other things to just make sure we get that collaboration and also the personal connection. We have worked remotely in the past because we have teams in the UK and we had team in Romania also. However, this time we found that collaboration is way better. I think because everyone has kind of figured out that we have to collaborate. And I keep using that word a lot because to some, I think even in my team, it might feel like micromanaging in some situations when you're trying to collaborate a lot. And I think overall, the day, as a because you have a large team, my job role is to make sure they're enabled to do the work that they want to get done. So a lot of that is not that structured other than the set meetings, but just to kind of help people get through whatever issues, whether it's technical or infrastructural, just to kind of get through those. And I think we also are trying to make sure that we look out for each other for our physical well-being, even mental and emotional, because at this time, if you don't have those connections, it can be difficult. I think my overall irritation level in life has gone down because of this situation. I'm not as irritable, but maybe my colleagues will say differently. But I think that's just a typical day is just trying to collaborate and make sure people are able to do their job.
Great. Thank you, Sohamji. And the question goes to Sudhiji again about your typical day, insight into it.
Yeah, I guess like Son mentioned, a typical day is not the same right now, right? Because of all of the COVID, amidst the COVID situation that's going around the world, right? So definitely, I basically also want to highlight the collaboration part with the team members. That's something that has been challenging. As for me, I start off my day with, I do a quick check on my calendar, any kind of calendar schedules that have been planned for today. And also try to prioritize some of the stuffs. Well, I'm currently, unlike Abhigya, like I only have one project in my bucket list right now, but then inside within that project also, like there are a couple of other priorities, right? I need to well plan for, organize my priorities for that particular day. And my typical day starts off with like regular stand-up meetings, like inside the project that I'm currently overseeing. Like we have multiple teams, so I join daily stand-up meetings of teams. Like for example, we have our product team stand-up meetings, we have our operations team check-in meetings, and infrastructure teams meeting as well. And then and then in the second half, like I usually go into some of the check-in meetings, like we have like some of the weekly regular kind of meetings and all. And also I also find out, because like at this time, since the entire team is working remotely, try to find some time so that I can have one-on-one sessions with team members as required, as and when required, because I think it's really important and crucial, and it's a priority for us, like managers, like to make sure like teams are motivated, especially in this situation, like where where we have been working remotely, and the collaboration is a kind of challenge for us, because team motivation, we need to equally consider team motivation factors as well. And also, and in the later in the evenings, I usually jump into we have our regular client meetings. We regularly jump into our client schedule. One thing I would also like to highlight on this is like remote working. I think like we have been working remotely. We normally call it at WFS work from home, but I prefer to call it at remote working as well. Like especially in the IT sector, remote working, I would say, is a kind of a USP for us, right? It's a unique selling point for us, because unlike other in any other professions, like where you do not where you cannot leverage the where you cannot like have probably have a chance to work remotely, right? Because for example, in banking sector, how can all of the people work remotely? That will be a big challenge, right? So what I would say in this situation is like, I think we need to think this of as an opportunity, take this remote working as an opportunity, and figure out ways we can improve how we can work remotely actually. Some of the key concepts would be like, how can we collaborate with our team members? How can we make sure like team members are motivated? Because we do not have, currently we do not have the leverage of having like coffee talks and going out with them lunches for entire team. So I think we need to be really careful on that part right now. And that's one thing I'd focus and I'd prioritize every day right now.
Okay. And thank you, Sudhirji. And with this, we are moving to the next question. And going forward, we will be adhering to our rules of 2 to 3 lines answer, and that's it. And I will be asking the same question to 2 panelists, so that we have some variation in the provided solution, our answer. Okay. The question is to Abhiga. How has agility or Scrum helped your job?
That's a very nice question for me, in fact. Well, prior to me getting into the agile business, so you're asking it to me, so personally. So I'm just giving this on my personal basis, yeah. So prior to me being introduced to Scrum or Agile, I was doing projects in a waterfall manner only, and I was only a project manager, a simple project manager who followed the the simple waterfall model, and that had a lot of risks, and there were some uncertainties when you did the UAT. So you expect something and something else came out. But after I got introduced to Agile and after I started using it, now that I'm a practitioner as well, I can foresee like the differences, the variance in the projects. Like I can figure out, because I work for telco, still there are certain projects like rollout projects that you have to do it in waterfall, but then I can have a balance of checking things like which would work in an agile way and which will work for a simple PM waterfall way. So there has been kind of knowledge that has been imposed into me, and I can make that difference. That's number one. Number two is about the credibility that you earn with all the credentials that you have earned so far. So that's another thing. And again, like I am currently I'm currently leading the agile transformation in my organization, which is again a big achievement and a lot of learning opportunity for me. So it was not there unless I was introduced into Agile or Scrum. So I think that has been the biggest achievement for, in regards to my career and my domain.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Abhikaji. And I would like to ask the same question. How has agility Scrum helped your job to Sudhirji as well? Sudeep?
Yeah, sure. So definitely, similar to Abhigya, I also have like prior experience. Like when I started programming back in 2007. I mean, like we were mostly following the waterfall approaches, right? And that was kind of challenging and kind of monotonous as well for me personally, because we had to write this long list of SRS, software requirement specification, documentation, and all those processes, right? And the output was also, I mean, like, I'd be coding, I would be writing the codes, but then I'd still not know what problem I was trying to solve, right? So in terms of agility, I think that's one big change that has, I'd say, has personally helped me become better as well. So I think the core value of Agile is providing solutions in an iterative way. I think that's the core benefit of following an Agile approach. And that way, I think how it has helped is like, it also helped me not just become not just become a project coordinator, but also become a problem solver, right? Understand the business problems, right? What are the core solutions? What is the core problem that the business is trying to solve? What are the challenges? What is the market? What is the right product? We also say like product market fit, right? What is the product that's best fit for the market at current situations? So I think those kind of understandings, I think that has definitely helped me develop. So in addition to that, so I think I'd like to emphasize three major parts in here. Like one is becoming being a leader, being a liaison, and being a mentor. Right? So I think these are the I'd say these are three main roles for a manager as well, right? So being a leader, you need to be able to lead your team, make them understand the goal of that particular project, what the project is trying to achieve. And being a liaison, like you need to make sure you are setting the right expectations for both your stakeholders and your fellow team members as well. So that like having the right balance between your client and the team, I would say. And also being a mentor for your teams, like providing them solutions, providing them guidance, and taking, if there is any kind of, I mean, like taking ownership and being responsible one, right? So being a decision provider as well. So I think, so these are, I'd say personally, these are a few of the things that has helped me grow, to grow in terms of agility.
Okay. Thank you, Sudhiji. The next question is to, again, Mukesh and Sudeep. So I will go with Mukesh first. So what challenges have come up because of Agile or Scrum in your day-to-day life? Oh, not life, sorry, work life. So what are the challenges because of Agile, or we can say Scrum if you're using Scrum? So what are the challenges it has brought with it in your actual work life, in your actual experience, responsibilities? We'll start with Mukesh first.
Sure. So, well, we are pretty much into Agile, and we are fortunate that it's going a kind of in very good sense. Like at every step, we have a defined process, so everything is aligned. And what we are missing is like the face-to-face, where we can sense the danger of any kind that team might be facing. So that is the one thing that we are missing in terms of this pandemic situation, not due to any kind of process or practices. So I think it's pretty good. I haven't found any that kind of issue that we are using Agile or Scrum.
Okay. Thank you, Mukeshji. Sudeepji, you would like to ponder about what issues or challenges, difficulties, or unwanted things that has come with Agile or Scrum in your work?
Right. Okay. So yeah, there are challenges, I would say. I mean, like challenges are something personally, in my personal opinion, it's depends on situational, right? Challenges are situational, right? I mean, like in every day, you are up for some kind of challenges. But obviously, like I mentioned earlier, Agile is it's kind of demanding, I would say. It's because compared to other waterfall models or or other previous development methodologies, I think Agile is a kind of demanding because we iterate in every cycle. Like let's say we have a two sprint cycle, and in 2 sprints we need to deliver something, right? Deliver in terms of we need to add some values to the business, right? And our product owners would also be expecting the same, right? So I think that's one big challenge that Agile has seen, because like we work on a laid off pattern. I mean, like laid back pattern, like work it on our own pace. Like there are certain commitments we provide in every sprint that has to be delivered at the end of the sprint. So I think that's one big challenge we have. But then I'd not definitely count that as a challenge as well. That's an opportunity as well to grow. I mean, like if we take it positively. And so I think in terms of Agile, like for example, one of the core challenges I'd also see is when we are trying to onboard a new team member, right? Because we have an expectation that we set to the clients that we are going to deliver something in our product in every sprint. And we also need to like the product owner also expects to have a consistent velocity. Like we need to maintain that ratio that we have been planning, right? So when it comes to onboarding new team members, it's kind of like we are kind of rushing towards things, so that making sure like he gets up to the speed as soon as possible, so that he can start delivering value in an iterative way in sprints, right? And and also second thing is I would say is the documentation part. I know Agile in its describes like it doesn't focus on documentation much, but I feel like personally like documentation are really important in terms of project as well. So whenever we say like we need to document something, like the first question usually comes up into my mind is like, we are following Agile practices, right? Why do we need so many documentation, right? But at the end of the day, there are certain benefits that helps. So that could be a different discussion actually. So apart from them, Agile, I think Agile is a kind of mindset. I'd say it's not. Instead of rather defining in theoretically in terms of a methodology or kind of frameworks or anything, I'd say it's a kind of mindset where we are trying to add value to business in an iterative way. So okay. I think these are basically roughly some of the challenges I would like to outline here. That's come to my mind right now.
Sure, thank you. Thanks, Sadhuji. And with this, we are moving to the next question, and this question would be for Sohamji and Mukeshji. And let me put a question. So how do you help your teams both day to day and in a strategic level to be agile? So when I say agile, let's consider that to provide the actual business value or value to the client. So how do you work on so that you help the teams in your day-to-day work, like every day you are on track, and also at the very strategic level, so that the teams are aligned? So how do you help that to achieve the business value to the client or customer? Yeah. So with Sohamji, yeah, please.
Yeah, okay, I'll go first. Yeah, I think this question, the answer probably also relates a little bit to the question that you asked earlier. What are some of the weaknesses or something like that? So in order to help the teams, we have to realize that in Agile, you as leaders are facilitators and you're not telling people what to do or managing a project. And that's the key to remember. And we do have a tendency to kind of forget that and let the team own it, right? So that is one of the weaknesses, but at the same time, that's how you help the teams also. The other inherent problem with looking at Agile, in my opinion, is also, we have the saying, seeing the forest for the trees, right? So when you just look at trees, you kind of miss the forest. So sometimes you have to make sure you see the forest. And this is very true, especially when you're doing something, a large project that has different components, even foundational items that are architecturally, that has to be designed in a large capacity. Traditionally, waterfall worked perfect for that, because you could go design your architecture, spend a couple of months doing that and say, now build on it, right? Now that we're in Agile, we really have to look at delivering value. And we're actually, in essence, looking at the trees. But at the same time, you have to enable the team to see the forest, which is the strategic thing you were trying to say. And finding that balance, I think, is also the key. And in that also, I think leaders will have to play the facilitator role, because the answers do come from the team. However, the teams might not be well equipped to see the forest. So that's my answer.
Okay, thank you, Somji. So Mukeshji, over to you. So how do you help your teams both in day-to-day as well as in strategic way, so as to provide the business value or value to the client?
All right. So study itself, we had a quarter release, which is major release that we do in every quarter. And I'm very glad, and we got appreciation from the senior leader team and the customers as well, that we did it even beyond that we used to do while working at the office place. And this is one thing that empowered me as a leader, and that adds more trust on my team. And definitely some kind of situations were there, the difficult situations that team has come across while meeting the objective, one of the objective, where team suffered technically, where they used to, when in normal situations, when we were in office, anybody can pop into the particular stuff and they can solve it out within a time frame, or even much faster if we club 2 or more people. But the situation was not normal, and people were staying at home and they were struggling for the work. And as a leader, as a team manager, I was in very much collaboration with the particular person to get that resolved. But it took a little while than the normal time. But again, we solved that problem. So the biggest challenge was, like, while working at the same place, co-located area, we can sense what is happening, and we can see the people if something is really coming, not coming that we are expecting. Same time we can jump into that situation and we can make it working. But working remotely, it's a kind of tough situation. And the culture that we have in Nepal, like nobody will ask you for help at first place. So at last, when the situation is going worst, people raise the hand. So that was one of the situation I came through. So I can say, using Agile, we are very much fortunate that we have well planned for everything, the release and everything, and team. So we call it multiple hands and one mind. So that's what our team do, and this is how we are achieving the every challenges that we have came across. And that was the situation we had been through.
And thank you, Mukesh. So to summarize, basically facilitating, coaching, mentoring, that is the kind of roles that currently the leaders are playing when it's working in an agile way for the, basically for the agility towards the customer. That is what I have derived from this discussion till now. And one thing I will try to mention is we are not specifically talking about COVID-19 situation yet. So yes, you are free to provide your input on that, not a problem at all, but the questions clearly are not about it only. So please consider other situation as well. With this, I will move to next question, and this will be again to Sudeep and Mukesh. Can you share incidences of conflict or clash with Scrum Masters or product owners, and what caused it? So I'm looking forward to any specific, if it's possible to provide the specific. Do not take the name, definitely do not take the project, because that may put you in difficult condition. But again, we want to know, like, what kind of conflicts generally happen and how do you take care of it. And it's not a theoretical answer. We want to know in the real sense whether it's happening or not. Yes, Sudhirji.
So conflict with a Scrum Master or within your team, or what's your experience?
The first is maybe Scrum Master, because as a manager, your roles kind of are you at the boundaries or maybe conflicting at times with Scrum Master? And second, maybe product owner, you can answer only one of them, no problem. And also, yes, definitely teams are always there.
Yeah, so I think I personally serve as a Scrum Master as well. I mean, like I have that role as well. So I'd say we as a project manager, we actually wear multiple hats, right? We act as a Scrum Master. We also act as a liaison between the various stakeholders of the project, and also sometimes as a proxy product owners as well. So I think that's kind of challenging to us. Talking about conflicts, I think not any specific conflict, but in general, like one of the biggest challenges that I personally feel is like have is like protecting the teams, right? In case this is with regards to the product owner, right? So product owner always want to take in more stuff because he wants to get done more in less amount of time. And we as a Scrum Master or managers, like we need to be able to be in a situation like we can protect the teams, right? And normally what we tend to do is like we do some sort of like story point estimation sizing. We follow story point estimations, and then like at the end of the day, it's always a kind of trade-offs, right? Okay, which issue we want to prioritize first, right? And from product owner's perspective, it's always like everything is on the everything that they have on their bucket list is a priority for them, right? So I think the goal here would be like I totally agree to what Sohan mentioned as well, like understanding the core business value, right? Making sure that you understand the business value well, so that you can disseminate the knowledge to your team members as well, right? And it's even a good practice to define like sprint goals every sprint, right? So that like the team understands what the objective is that we are trying to achieve in that particular sprint, right? And sometimes
I will like to interrupt you. So what I really wanted to know was whether have you any faced any conflicts or no. So maybe you may not be able to recollect it, or you don't want to specify it. But again, what I wanted to know was and I think the audience should know is whether you face conflicts and how frequent it is and what types of conflicts are they, so that we all know what is natural, what is not, and the people can be informed about it. So
right.
The question is whether you face conflicts regularly or don't, and what types of conflicts are they?
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to point out as well. Maybe
sorry,
I was
no problem. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So one of the conflicts that we usually have is defining the priorities in a sprint, like defining the velocity, like the product owner always wants to get some more items, but then like we need to be in a position and to properly position so that like we are like not over committing, right? So one of the challenges is that, so I would say.
Okay.
And so at the end of the day, I think I feel like like I mentioned earlier, like we need to have the right balance between client satisfaction and team members motivation as well, right? Because as we as a managers, we need to make sure like your team is motivated enough, and plus your clients are also satisfied with whatever we are delivering, right? So so that's one challenge, I'd say. And let me think.
Maybe till then we can just move to Mukesh, and maybe Sudhir, you can add on later. Is it okay?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yes, Mukesh ji.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my first word was we are very much fortunate that we have quite a good amount of processes that we have aligned with. So normally we don't have such kind of classes, but yeah, definitely working since long, we have been through some kind of situations like where a Scrum Master is called the shield for the team. where they will not allow anybody to enter or disturbing the team, since the team has already have their planned, their commitments, and they are working towards it. But being as a leader, it's and you know, as a manager or as a leader, you are not allowed to, or you're not a part of the team. But eventually, you have to help the team from outer side, which is one of the challenges. But sometimes Scrum Master feels like it's someone else who is coming to distract the team. But this is not the actual scenario. And the second thing I felt was in a year back, one of the Scrum Master was not properly aligned with the value that our business has, or the value that our developers has. So they are working towards the goal, they're working towards the business values, but team members and Scrum Masters are not on the same page, due to various reasons, like maybe their personal reasons or so. But you know, that could be one of the conflict that I have been through, and I have especially instructed the Scrum Master that you better not to pull the team members in every problems. Like, you know, as a Scrum Master, you are a servant leader. You have to protect the team from outer world. Not, you should not war within your team, or you should not act like you are over preventing your team, or you are not overreacting to any kind of situation in your team. But definitely, it's a kind of very good collaboration with the Scrum Master, and I really feel like a Scrum Master is someone which we need to have in the team.
Okay. So,
Prakash, I would
yes,
like
please.
to add to this.
Please.
I think like one of the key challenges as a manager or as an agile coach would be when you try to create a high performing team. So the roles and responsibilities that are defined within the teams, within the boundary, if they are not clear, and like if the set expectations are not clear within the team members, then I think that's something that creates a lot of conflict. Because if somebody expects that this is something that is done to be done, this is something that has to be done by so and so, and somebody else thinks that this is something that has to be done by some other person, and maybe in a team of 5 or 6 people, not everyone would be performing equally, right? So if somebody is overperforming and if someone in the same team is underperforming, then again the challenge as a manager or an agile coach is, how do you create the entire team a high performing team? I think this is one of the key issues that we face in our daily work environment as well.
Okay. Thank you, Abhigya.
Yeah.
So, Sudhirji, would you
Yeah.
like to add anything, or we should move to next one?
Yes. So one of the things that I just came up to my mind is, so one of the thing is like, I think the end-to-end, I'd like to focus on the end-to-end impact analysis, right? So what we have realized is like when we are like planning for our sprints, when we are like, when we are planning together for our sprints, like we are not making sure like what would be the end-to-end impacts of that particular item, right? Because like we are just focusing on the current day. Well, let's say we have a story or a user task, and then we only focus as a team, like the team only focuses on how that problem can be solved temporarily, right? But then but then like we do not envision the overall picture, right? And what would be the end-to-end implications of that? And the results of that would be like most of the production bugs like that I have been facing in my project right now is because of that reasons. And that's one of the reason why I'd also like to highlight the developer level testing. We call it as like dev QA part. So it's not just the responsibility of a QA member if you have in a team who should be responsible enough for the quality of that particular product or deliverable, right? Is the responsibility of the entire team actually. that includes a PM, that includes the developers or even designers and the QA, right? So I think understanding like the end-to-end implications would be really important, I'd say.
Okay. Thank you, Sadhuji. So with this, to summarize, conflict is inevitable. So Scrum or Agile is not a silver bullet, is it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's go to next question. And it would be controversial question, I guess. And this is to Soham and Abhigya. So considering that Scrum is one of the popular and most used Agile framework, you say, and they say that Scrum doesn't have a manager role. So why do we need managers when the team is self-organized? Can you please answer? I think let's start with Sohanji.
It's a very easy question. So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, yes, Agile, where we have self-organizing teams, and teams would be able to deliver at a high-performing team and all of that. But then there comes the issue, and this is also part of the conflict question you asked earlier, when business shifts priorities quickly, just like something happened like this COVID-19, a lot of businesses had to shift their priorities, right? So when that happens, a lot of things goes out the window, because now all of a sudden it's pretty much, for a lot of businesses, you either make or break kind of situation. So in those times, it is probably better to have some level of guidance in terms of experienced managers or other experienced people to guide the teams. In a regular setting, even without any of these kind of emergency situations, in Agile, one of the things that businesses kind of miss from the teams is the delivery. What is it that you delivered for me? Yeah, you delivered value in this one aspect of the project, but what am I getting out of this, right? So that conflict, I wouldn't say a conflict, but that gap always exists in any business when they're doing Agile. The business leaders need big features to run their business, to make quicker decisions, gain more customers. We are going iteratively, right? Mm-hmm. And so how do you manage that? How do you bridge that expectation from the business and the reality of the teams and the process that we have? And I think in that, managers can play a good role to provide that bridge. So things of that nature, however, they could be used to facilitate whether it's alignment of ideas, stories, right? So something earlier, based on a different set of priorities that we can use, or even use concepts from traditional project management to make sure we have the right sequence of events going, rather than just leaving it to the Scrum. So back to the original saying, who sees the forest, right? So there could be roles for managers to actually facilitate within teams. When you have multiple Scrum teams, that role becomes more crucial, I think.
Okay. Thank you, Sanjay. Yes,
Yes, yeah, completely agreeing to what Soham said. And in addition, like, it is always good if you do not have a manager. So you already have a high performing team. Everybody knows they are self-organized. Everybody is equally accountable. But again, this is very impractical, or let's say like it's more of theoretical. So when you step into a practical world, which is ever changing and which is uncertain, like again, the COVID-19 is just an example, but there could be various business uncertainties. So let's say like, why would you need a manager then? That's when you talk about that question, maybe you have a CEO or an MD who has a vision, right? So he's someone who has the strategies, how I want my company to move in the next 2 years or next 5 years. So I have a plan, but whom do I rely on so that these plans and these vision could be met. So I give missions to my managers. So I'm setting up some kind of expectation to the manager, saying that I rely on you guys for these goals to be accomplished. Then it comes on a team level, right? So there could be multiple business strategies and multiple tasks that's going on in an organization, but you need someone to organize that and then put it up to a high level, saying that yes, we are in the right direction, we are completely aligned to the organization's goals and ambition, and we have managers there to take care of what is going on. So it's only after the managers that you rely on some specific task for a Scrum team or some Agile team. So I think that's where a manager's role is important, even though you are practicing Scrum and even though your organization is highly agile.
Okay. Thank you, Somji. Thank you, Abhigaji. So with this, we get a summarization that, okay, Sudhirji want to add. Okay, please. Yeah. Yes, Somji.
Thank you, Professor. So in addition to that, I think I also mentioned this in the beginning, right? So Scrum Masters, I mean, they are focusing mainly on the execution part or the coordination side, right? So I think we as a manager should not just be helping on the coordination side, but also try to become problem solvers, right? So because at the end of the day, the outcome of any product is to solve any kind of existing problem scenarios that the customers or the user is facing, or the business focus is on, right? So we also, in addition to that, I think we also need to become third partners to our customers, become a reliable liaisons for our product owners and customers. And also we need the managers, what we do is that we also try and articulate the risks, whether if any, in the projects, and not just about the project statuses and all, right? And also we need to be able to we also need to have an ability to communicate around the common challenges that we are facing, right? So understand the main business objective, what are the main business goals, right? And then provide those kind of information, like Soham and Abhigya mentioned, like make sure like your team properly understands the key concept, the key goal, what we are trying to solve, right? And yeah, become not just become coordinators, but then become problem solvers to your customers and clients, so that we are collaborators trying to solve their problems and not just leaving those part to our clients, right? And expecting okay, these are our customers, these are our clients, they are coming up with the solution, and we just need to do whatever they have directed us, right? So I think that level, thinking on a higher perspective, is, I think that is a good value addition to the project in whole.
Okay.
If time allows, I would like to add a couple of things here.
Yes, please, Mukherjee.
Yeah, so I'll see it from the engineering lead lens. So it's not limited to the business, not limited to the delivery, but we should also consider the quality in the code. So as a lead, as a engineering lead, you are somehow expert at some subject matter, and you should be acting like to ensure the quality of your product. So yeah, it's like your team is self-driven team, and however we call it, the team that can deliver, or we can say it, what do you call that, the self-sustaining team, even though they need guidance at some point of time. And as we know, while working in a Scrum, we have bounded with the timeline. So within that time frame, we have to deliver the quality, you have to meet the business, you have to meet the value for the customers. At the second hand, we need to ensure the quality that we produce. So as a engineering lead, we need to look from the quality perspective, that whether the code has properly unit test cases written, it is success in all the way, the code has proper reviewed, done, and the delivery that we are intended to roll out is assure the high quality, the security issues should not be there. So these kind of things I'd like to add on top of whatever discussions takes place here.
Okay, thank you, Mukesh. So with all this discussion about role of managers, I am a bit, I'm not sure whether I should be confused or not, but yes, I am confused. So maybe the next question will I will follow up on it. So we are having the Scrum teams or Agile teams which are supposed or which have the ownership to execute the project to be kind of complete in themselves, self-organized. They should be kind of self organized and cross-functional. They say so. You have all the things that are required to be done in your teams itself. But again, based on the discussion, it is coming up like, okay, manager is also responsible this, and there are multiple responsibilities. So with this kind of settings, wouldn't there be loss of accountability? Whether the agile team has the accountability of the delivery, or the managers has the accountability of delivery. So what is the I understand that in specific conditions where you need to provide the support of the teams, maybe you lost one member and you need to add yourself on that. That is all can be understood. But if we say that we are in a normal way, wherein your team is working okay, and then would you still be accountable for the work, or it will be the project team, that is agile team, that is working on project or product? Agile team. So who is accountable for the delivery? The question should be answered in only one word. No more explanation, please, and by everybody, if that is okay. You're starting with Sudhirji. One word only.
One word.
Manager or agile team. Accountability of the project of the product delivery.
So I don't think this can be answered in one word, right?
Okay,
But
thank you. Okay. Okay. Are you answering in one word?
So I think it's the responsibility of the agile team, and we as a manager should be a part of the team, not separate from the team.
Thank you, Sudhirji. So Mukeshji, one
Yeah,
word.
I think
Agile team or manager.
definitely it's a responsibility of development team.
Thank you. Somji, agile team or managers?
We're following Agile, it's Agile team, of course.
Thank you. Abhigaji?
I have a different perspective. If this agile team is reporting to the manager, then the accountability is on the manager, while the responsibility is on the agile team. So there's difference, accountability and responsibility.
There is difference, yes. So in your perspective, it's accountability on the manager.
Accountability on the manager and responsibility on the agile team.
Okay. Maybe I wanted to have this answer. It's not. It maybe it's like different teams, different corporates. They may have different type of structures, and no answer is wrong or right.
Right.
So it's based on the context of your program. That is my understanding. So with this, let's go to another controversial or interesting topic: performance management. So performance management has been generally very much individualistic. It may have changed, and I wanted to know the change that has happened because of the way you are working in the agile teams. So agile team looks at the teamwork or team spirit in a very, very special way, whereas traditionally performance management has been a very individualistic context. So how are your organizations keeping up with it, or how are you managing it, or how do you plan to manage? So first is, how are you doing it? If it's okay to answer, please. Otherwise, please feel free to pass, because this may be a different kind of question. Yeah, maybe we will start with Abhigaji, please.
So I'll give you a mixed kind of question. I'm not saying exactly in answer, but somewhat, and a theoretical type of thing. So traditional, you are doing a one-to-one thing when your manager is doing your appraisals and everything. So he's not considering your, like your teammates or your fellow mates feedback. But when you're doing it in an agile way, then you're doing a 360-degree feedback. So let's say, like, if your team is doing very well, that's the team that decides, saying that, okay, so this person has performed well, and this is someone who is underperformed. So the manager is also taking the views of the entire team. And when you're being rewarded, the incentive would be also decided as per the team and not on the managers. So this could be a theoretical approach. This could be something that organizations have been practicing, or or could practice.
Thank you, Abhigya. The question is again to Sohamji, but again, I think no theory, please. So if you're okay to answer to your organization's context, please. Otherwise, I think theory is already done. Sohamji, please.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I want to go too much detail in how we do it, but this question is very hard to answer without hanging on to some theory, because performance management, by the word itself, we tend to think about it as individuals, whereas the whole idea of a self-organizing team is that the team performs well, right? So I think it can't be just looked at through that prism. It has to be looked in the context of the personal growth of the individuals, which contribute to the high performing team. So I think a lot of organizations try to do that, especially figuring out how to do performance management within the agile context. So you have to look at the individual's growth so that the teams perform well, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you are looking at both the perspectives and the kind of having the good mix, so that individual performance should improve the team's performance and the team should perform better.
Yeah, I mean, it's also up to the individuals to improve or make sure, take the initiative for the performance improvement, right? So in the traditional, it was always up to the manager because it was top down. You did this, you didn't do this. Whereas in agile, we've shifted that and said you have a team that's well performed. Everyone's accountable within the team. So now it is a lot of responsibilities on the individual. However, as managers, you are there to support and facilitate and guide that. So still theoretical.
I think we get the essence actually. Thank you so much. And the next question to Sudeep and Abhigya. What are you doing to make sure that, sorry, yes, Sudeep, saying it?
Sorry, I'd like to add to that as well, the performance management. So I think, yeah, so I think like Abhigya and so on mentioned, I think it's definitely up to the team, right? So I think in previously, like the upper management used to decide on evaluate on the performance of individuals, right? Whereas there could be certain contexts like the upper management would not have directly worked with that person on a day-to-day basis, right? They might not be engaged on a day-to-day basis. So I think it's equally important for the team peer-to-peer feedback, which we call it in Leapfrog actually, like having peer-to-peer feedback and evaluation based on the performance of the team and evaluating by the team and not just by some person outside of the team actually. So that's of equally importance. And secondly, I think the time frame, right? It's not necessarily like we do an evaluation on a bi-yearly or a yearly basis only, right? If someone is doing good enough, like we need to be able to appreciate them instantly, right? If there is a situation, then we also need to be able to provide them critical feedback instantly, because like if we wait for another 6 months or a 1 year time, like that might not come up into our heads, right? So I think timing is also equally important, I'd say, in performance. I mean, like performance management as well.
Okay, thank you. Next question is again to you, Sudeepji and Abhigya.
I think he's also raising his hand. He probably wants
to. Is it? Sorry. Yes, Mukesh, please.
Yeah, so I'd like to add a few more on what we discussed here. So performance management is not something that like who is doing right or who is doing wrong. Performance, we can only measure the performance when you have the capable team members. So in order to do that, you need not to do the performance review once in a year. So what we do is we evaluate each of the individual not from the individual perspective, but from the delivery, from the context of quality, from the leadership perspective, how they are doing the things. Even though they are not entitled a leader role or not entitled a manager role, they are equally managing the things, right? So management is not responsibility of managers only. It's a team responsibility, and we need to give them platforms so that they can achieve what they are intended to. And like we are practicing the OKR platforms as well, where we give them objectives and they need to learn it, they need to gain it, and then they can perform it well. So performance is something that a leader has to provide to the individual team members so that they can be capable. So that it's a definitely it's a controversial topic. How do you measure the performance? It's a individual, since we are working or since we are advocacy on the agile scrum teams, and we are coming to the individual performance review. So it doesn't kind of justice at some point of time, but definitely we need to walk around the objectives, and we fulfill the objective by doing the things. So these are few things that we need to consider while doing the performance review. And definitely the performance review with 360 reviews, feedbacks from the teams, feedbacks from the external team members are also equally important to while especially you are judging someone. So that's it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And this is my second last question. Amit, do we have enough time, or just checking on the time?
No, I think we've already crossed 1 hour, but we can ask a few questions and for 10-15 minutes. And
Okay. So I have at least 2 questions, so we'll go first. This is for Sudeep and Abhigya again. What are you doing to make sure that your teams are high-performing teams? So what do you do so that your teams are high-performing teams? So Abhigya.
So yes, as an agile coach, this is the biggest challenge that like any agile coach would be facing. Like, how do you create a high-performance team, or what are your expectations from them, right? First is about proper coaching and guidance. Second is about setting clear expectations and vision. Third is about the impediments and the roadblocks. So make sure that these impediments and roadblocks are something that is really worth, or maybe the teams are not just, they're not saying that, okay, we have these impediments or these roadblocks, but these impediments should be of value, should be of real worth. So I think that's again very important while you are working with the team. And the most important thing is about your capability of having a strong acceptance, and you being a good listener. So let's say, like, I'm coaching my team members, I'm coaching a team of 5 people. They do not want to listen to me. They do not want me to coach them. So that's something that I need to accept. So I think that is again a big challenge to an agile coach. Do your teams really want to become coached, and you want them to become high performing or not? That's one thing. Uh, Again, important is about the listening skills. Like, how well are you listening, or how well are you relating to your team's performance and their issues? So I think these are the challenges that you really face as an agile coach by creating
Okay.
that community.
Thank you, Abhigya. Yes, Sudhiji, over to you.
I would say like something similar to what Abhigya just mentioned. So one is first of all is definitely the having a shared understanding of the product vision, right? So I've been emphasizing this. So I mean like quite a lot in this session already. So having an understanding, like each and every member of your team needs to realize the importance of building the product, right? I think so I generally also say like so that like we need to make sure like in every step we are taking proper care of the project, right? And having the understanding the overall vision and mission of the project business, the value that we have been creating, and feels like they are treating this project as their own product and not just our customers or a client product. And second thing is also try to understand, like making sure like the team members are equally motivated to contribute to the work, right? If the team members are not motivated enough, then I would not say that that'd be a very big challenge to have a high performing team, right? So making sure like they have got the required tools and resources to do their job, making sure like they feel privileged to be working with this particular team, um, and yeah. So and also in terms of processes, I'd say like there is one of the pillars is like inspecting and adapting, right? We need to continuously the processes that we defined maybe 6 months ago might not be the right fit in the current situation, right? We continuously need to evolve around the processes we follow. There is no such thing as like one size fits all shoes, right? So we need to continuously inspect and adapt and continuously progress as well, right? And one of the things I think we normally do not do is like reevaluate our team's performances, right? So let's say we normally have our agile teams. We have like certain defined, like, okay, this is the velocity of the team, right? We define the velocity, but then how often do we recalibrate the velocity? Are we doing that? Are we making sure like the team is performing more? How often are we comparing against our past and in the future, right? So I think those kind of this kind of practices can definitely help to foster like high performing teams, I'd say.
Great. Thank you, Sudhuji. That's awesome insight. Thank you. And with this, we are at the last question, and this question was specifically about about the COVID-19 situations, how it has changed your roles, responsibilities. I think we discussed about it when we asked the first question or second one, and maybe we need to add anything else that we want to add to that scenario right now, and mainly from the context of how do you build trust with your teams when they're working from home. And trust is one area, productivity is another area, and feeling of empathy is a different area. So maybe our last, for all the panelists, our last question is, how are you handling the current context, and what is your suggestion on it? Yes, maybe we can start with Abhigya, please, again. Oh, Abhigya is muted. Amit, you need to unmute her.
Okay, yeah. With the current situation, with the COVID-19, this is really, it's a challenging thing for all managers or all leaders. However, like I think empathy is very important, because we are facing something that that nobody had ever faced, and it's not only us but the entire world. Globally, it's the same thing. So let's say like there could be situations where you do not have a proper infrastructure. Let's say like there could be some power cuts, sometimes the internet is not working. So setting expectation is one thing, but again, your team or some team members might not be performing as per the deadline because of all these issues. I will not take a name, but even I've had a similar situation. I had a deadline and I had to report it to the group, to the HQ. But one of my team members could not revert to me on the specific deadline, and it crossed beyond 2 or 3 days. I called him, I asked about the situation, and I figured out that he was not in Kathmandu, he was somewhere out of Valley, where the infrastructure was not proper, the coverage, 3G coverage, 4G coverage was not quite good. So he had to walk like for 1 or 2 hours. He had to go to one place. He used to do his work over there and again go back home, walk back. So things are not really, like it's not like the normal days. So you need to have some kind of empathy and some kind of kindness towards your teammates. So I think that is how you could build trust. So instead of me just nagging at him or reporting to the group saying that I cannot meet my deadline, I first figured out what was the problem. So that's one part, like where the empathy comes in, and that's where the trust again was regained. So I think that is very important. And another is productivity again. So you're doing couple of you have couple of tasks to complete, you have deadlines. Again, you might have kids at home, and they are also your priorities, right? So it's also about balancing your work life and your personal life. So that's and the good thing is you do not have a time bound now. So if you used to work from 9 to 5:30 in your office, then now you can start at 7 o'clock, you can finish it at 3 o'clock, have breaks in between, again work till 9 o'clock in the evening. So there are no boundaries. So I think the productivity could be met in this area. However, you need to be empathetic about the situation, and you need to be in everybody's shoes.
No.
Thank
So
you.
I think we have some questions from audience, so from our participants. So Professor, can you move to that?
So Amit, I have asked the questions already. So maybe we will continue with this question, and this is the last one, because some of the questions are not directly related to the management, but the few questions are what are the best approaches and to engage, educate business managers towards product mindset. I think that is separate product. It's a completely offline. It's for the product, so we don't need to take it. And building trust and coaching teams we have already taken. So with this, we will again continue with the same question that we asked Bigya, so about the COVID-19 condition. So over to you, Mukesh. How are you handling it?
Sure. So it's a kind of challenge that we already discussed. Like this is a different kind of situation where we have to, we should not be stopped at any, I mean, due to any circumstances, because we are working for someone else, like, right. And we have to take care of others when we are committed to give them what they're expecting. So yeah, on couple of things that Abhigya has already covered, like we should not be, I mean, looking from our people, from the customer perspective only. At other hand, we have to care them more. Like we are not currently working co-located, where we can sense the difficulties of any particular member or any particular situations. But we have to be very much frequently in touch with them. We can discuss with them in your personal matter, not only the business, the client, the values, the office, the culture, and whatever it is. But rather, since we stand in between the management and the people as well, so we should not be losing any of the part. So we have to play a very a breeze kind of role, where you need to make sure your people are mentally fit and they are doing properly, they are delivering what they're expected to be. So empathy is one part of it. Second thing is you have to give them enough psychological safety as well, that if you are not going to meet the particular objective of the business, you are not going to be at the end, right? Because this is a kind of unique situations, right? And this situation has to be handled very much carefully. Like your people, you should not be lose, otherwise you have you are in another situation which could be more drastic than what you are not delivering to your customer. But when you lose your people, it's a different kind of situations where you need to be in very bad situations. So other hand, we have to make sure that the product, the delivery, and the quality is assured. So people, we have to be very much communicated with them, to be in frequent touch with them, to have empathy, sympathy, and everything whatever we can do for the people. And at other hand, when we take care of our people well, they will definitely take care of our business very well. This is what we believe.
Thank you, Mukesh. And let's move to Sonji. Sorry, you are on mute. Amit, you need to unmute. Hello, Amit. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I want to start this off by saying that as humans, in any process that we follow, there's a tendency to kind of get complacent, and we go through the ceremonies, we do velocity, we deliver stories, and go through the rhythm. Times like these, I think, lets us reevaluate a lot of things and then go back to the basics: who, why, how, right? Who? Do we have the right people? Do we have a balanced team? Why? What is the vision? This is what Sudeep was saying earlier. Are we aligned on the values? Are we aligned on the vision? Are we seeing the whole picture? And how are our teams really empowered to do what we have asked them to do? Can they really be self-organizing? Have we enabled them? Whether it's the things I mentioned earlier at the beginning, physical, emotional, infrastructure, or even expertise-wise, right? So I think this is where we can focus on the basics and try to enable our teams. And I know it's easier said than done, because again, times like these also where there's a lot of pressure on a lot of people to get things done, cut shortcuts. But I think being part of Agile, and I liked what Sudeep said earlier, the mindset is that even these situations we try to solve being Agile, not just what we develop, but also how we go navigating these kind of situations.
Okay, thank you. What do you, Sudeep?
I think most of the things have already been covered, and I really like the going back to the basic perspective from Sonzi. So I think I'd just like to emphasize more on one thing, like making sure like everything is transparent enough, right? Having the transparent processes, right? So for that, like I think normally it's a tendency, like let's say like if there is a problem or that I'm trying to solve, right? If I'm into a situation where I'm stuck and I cannot move forward, I tend to go and talk with only one person, right? I get suggestion. I quickly find someone like in the team and then try to get it solved internally, right? But then what I've also been trying to emphasize is having a transparent process, right? Let's not, even in Slack, like we normally use Slack for asynchronous communication. And instead of having one-on-one conversations, I encourage people to use open Slack channels so that the third person, like entire team, is aware what kind of problem they are facing in and how they have been trying to resolve it, right? So trying to making sure like it's visible, because if we were in a co-located environment, everything is visible, right? People can observe everything and they can know what's going around in the project, right? And in this situation where like everybody is working remotely, how my goal is definitely trying to make sure like it's transparent enough so that and also like on top of that, like what one of the practices that we have been following is like if anyone is going out off for lunch, like they send a note in a Slack channel, like okay, they say okay, I'll be away for an hour, right? So those are simple things that might sound like a basic thing, but then it's very valuable because like people is aware like who is available on the fly, who's not, and those kind of stuff, right? So and the second thing is definitely we need to empathize people, and like I mentioned earlier, remote working is our USP for our IT. We need to try out ways that can make us like work in a productive and effective way, I'd say.
If I'm muted, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Sudhirji. And that's what my last question. We had other questions as well, but I think we have already overshot our time with more than 30 minutes. So don't want to keep this going on. Of course, I would love to. It is such a awesome panelist, and we had such a flow of discussion going on. I really enjoyed it and hope the participants of this event would have really liked and benefited from it. And over to you, Amit. I would like to thank you, Amit, as well, and the team for this. Thank you, Amit.
Professor,
And over to you.
okay, so we can end this, but at the same time, we can take some of the questions informally here.
Here itself. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. So, but again, I really don't want to have this formal going on because it's almost 1.5 hours. So
we can end the
my
formal.
personal, Okay. Okay. So we are formally ending it. So if we have anything that is pending or you have something to take care of, please feel free to leave. And we are moving into very informal discussion, casual one, so that we can discuss other things. So that is the
Yeah. We
Okay.
will stop the recording and we can do the informal discussions.